MTK Part 3. I learned some BASIC in school. You may remember BASIC, BASIC, Fortran, COBOL. There in the 80s were simple mechanical languages being tossed about via academics in in computing. Uh, and, we programmed the thing a bit. I have a lot here about. Oh yeah, we got a magazine, right? And you could write simple code. You learned about how to write this simple code. You make a little text-based game, D&D type of game. I did this a little, but friends of mine did more complicated ones. But I was interested in publishing, so I was printing multiples with typewriters on carbon paper. I was using AB Dick mimeographing machines, as I said, and then I was using copy machines, which I really was into, And even years later, when I met Rigo in San Francisco, I remember thinking he had a fascination with copy machines that I also had. I didn't think of the computer as a tool for publishing at all. That was not what was going on. It was a thing about science and programming and math and so on. It required programming in mathematical terms. For example, there was no HTML even. There was nothing like that. We cracked the case open, and we opened it in my physics class, my senior year, And though many of us may not have grasped the technical aspects of computing as quickly as others, we all understood it was the beginning of the digital era. We were now seeing the transition. And in our teenage years, would have CDs, It all changed very, very quickly between the time I was 13 and 18. In 83, a few years into my experience with the TRS-80 at home, and various 8088s, Apples that were introduced to me through science classes, AP classes at Clark, and other people, I ran into the Macintosh for the first time. My first association with the Macintosh is through Randy Klein. And Randy's dad was an engineer at Data Point. And he bought one of the first ones. We were handling it, playing with it, like a few months before the Chiat Day commercial came out during the Super Bowl of '84. Those first Apple Macintoshes were editioned. So there was a metal plate on the back of this one, and it had the unique number soldered to the back of the case. So it was cool, and it was clear to me anyway, and probably certainly to Randy, that the interface was stunningly more user-friendly than we'd ever previously experienced. A kid could use it. Windows, the operating system, which would command 90% of the world's desktops for 2 decades, didn't even exist yet. So this was it, man. Gates was a Harvard dropout, but Apple was on the map. And then he bit it when it blew up. So that's narrative was as many dozens of ways as you may have heard of that, was transparent to any of us. I would say the Macintosh would define how Windows would look, and eventually how tens of millions would interface through machines with each other around the world. That's how to put that. By my senior year of high school, a lot of us were writing papers with word processors, printing them on dot matrix. The movement started with standalone word processor devices, which were like typewriter-like machines, but you could read a little bit in advance. My dad loved that. Looking back, it seems both obvious and amazing how quickly we made the transition to using the word processor and eventually software on a PC to write. It was a natural step that changed writing forever. Cursive and the typewriter languish. But though the computer was on the verge of changing writing, publishing, and expressing with text and image forever, the single most dominant force of mass media wasn't the computer.